The fluorescent lights of Romano's Italian restaurant buzzed overhead like dying wasps, their harsh glare reflecting off the grease-stained floor I'd been scrubbing for the past hour. My knees ached, my back screamed, and the smell of burnt garlic and desperation clung to my uniform like a second skin. I could hear Marco's voice cutting through the kitchen, sharp, cruel, exactly as I remembered it. "Emma, table 6 needs water. Now." I pushed myself up from the floor, my joints protesting. 3 months since he'd thrown me out of our apartment. 3 months since he'd looked at me with those cold eyes and said the words that still echoed in my skull at night. "No one wants you. You're nothing. You'll always be nothing." And here I was, proving him right. Working at his uncle's restaurant because it was the only place that would hire me without references, without questions. The irony tasted more bitter than the espresso I'd burned earlier. I grabbed the water pitcher, my hands trembling slightly, not from the weight, but from exhaustion. Sleep had become a luxury I couldn't afford. Not in the cramped studio apartment I shared with 2 other girls. Not with the sounds of the city bleeding through paper-thin walls at all hours. The dining room was nearly empty. Monday nights always were. Just a few regulars picking at their pasta. An elderly couple in the corner, and my breath caught. Table 6 wasn't a table. It was a private booth in the back, the one Uncle Salvatore reserved for special guests, the one with the crimson velvet curtain that was always drawn, creating a pocket of mystery in our otherwise unremarkable establishment. Tonight, the curtain was pulled back. A man sat alone, though alone wasn't quite accurate. 2 other men flanked the entrance to the booth, standing with the kind of stillness that suggested coiled violence. They wore dark suits that probably cost more than my yearly salary, their eyes constantly scanning the room with professional paranoia. But it was the man in the booth who made my mouth go dry. He couldn't have been more than 30, devastatingly handsome in a way that seemed almost dangerous. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, lips that suggested both cruelty and sensuality. He wore a black suit that fit him like it had been born on his body, a crisp white shirt open at the collar, revealing a glimpse of tanned skin. Even from across the room, I could feel the power radiating from him like heat from asphalt in summer. "Emma!" Marco's hiss snapped me back. "What are you waiting for? Don't make Mr. Valentino wait." Valentino. The name sent ice through my veins. Even I, who paid no attention to the whispers of the city's underworld, had heard that name. The Valentino family didn't just own businesses, they owned everything. Politicians, judges, entire neighborhoods. They were the invisible hand that shaped New York's darkness. And I was supposed to serve him water. My legs moved on autopilot, carrying me across the dining room. Each step felt like walking toward a cliff edge. The 2 guards watched me approach with eyes like black holes, absorbing everything, revealing nothing. One of them, bald, with a scar running from his temple to his jaw, held up a hand. Name and purpose. "Emma, I'm just bringing water." My voice came out smaller than I intended. The scarred guard's eyes traveled over me, assessing, dismissing. He nodded once, stepping aside just enough for me to pass. The space around the booth seemed to exist in a different atmosphere. The air was thicker here, charged with something I couldn't name. I could smell expensive cologne, cedar and something darker, something that reminded me of late nights and dangerous promises. "Your water, sir." I reached for his glass, my hand shaking just slightly. That's when it happened. The pitcher slipped. Not much, just enough for water to splash over the rim, cascading down in a crystal arc that seemed to move in slow motion. I watched in horror as it hit the table, the white tablecloth darkening instantly, the water spreading like a stain, like guilt, like consequence. Toward his lap. "Oh God, I lunged forward instinctively, napkins already in my hand, trying to stop the water before it reached him. My hand pressed against his thigh. The world stopped. His muscle tensed beneath my palm, solid, warm through the expensive fabric. I froze, suddenly aware of how close I was, how I was practically leaning over him, how my breath was coming in short gasps that had nothing to do with panic, and everything to do with the way he smelled, the way the heat radiated from his body. I looked up. His eyes were the color of midnight. So dark they were almost black, with flecks of something dangerous glittering in their depths. They fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle, made every nerve ending come alive. His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath the smooth skin. "I'm sorry," I whispered, pulling my hand back like I'd been burned. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean—" "Don't move." His voice was velvet over steel, quiet but commanding. It wasn't a request. It was an order, delivered with the absolute certainty of someone who'd never been disobeyed. I stayed frozen, bent over his table, my hand still hovering near where it had been. I could feel my pulse hammering in my throat, could feel the weight of his gaze like a physical touch. He reached out slowly, deliberately, and my heart stopped. His fingers, long, elegant, with calluses that suggested he wasn't just a man who gave orders, wrapped around my wrist, not hard, but firm enough to make his point. "What's your name?" "Emma." It came out barely audible. "Emma Carter." "Emma." He repeated it like he was tasting it, rolling it around in his mouth. His thumb moved over my pulse point, and I knew he could feel how fast my heart was racing. "You're new here." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. 3 months. Something flickered in those dark eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or calculation. His grip on my wrist tightened fractionally, his thumb still moving in small circles that sent electricity shooting up my arm. "Look at me, Emma." I hadn't realized I'd dropped my gaze. I forced myself to meet his eyes again, and the intensity there nearly knocked me backward. He was looking at me like he could see through skin and bone, like he was cataloging every secret I'd ever kept. "You're shaking." I'm just tired, sir. And I'm sorry about the water. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. Nico." The guard with the scar appeared at my elbow so quickly I hadn't seen him move. "Boss, take her information. Name, address, phone number." His eyes never left mine. Everything. My stomach dropped. "Please," I said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "I know you didn't." His voice softened fractionally, though it remained as commanding as before. "But when someone touches what's mine, I need to know who they are." "What's mine?" The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I opened my mouth to protest, to explain that I wasn't anyone's, that I was nobody, that Marco had made that abundantly clear. "Emma, what the hell are you doing?" Marco's voice cut through the moment like a knife. I jerked back, and Valentino's hand fell away from my wrist, though his eyes remained locked on mine for one more heartbeat. Marco rushed over, his face red with anger and fear. Mostly fear. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Valentino." "She's new, she's clumsy. I'll have her removed immediately." "No." The single word stopped Marco mid-grovel. Valentino leaned back in his seat, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. "She stays. You go." Marco's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "But sir, I'm the manager. I should—" "You're hurting her arm." Valentino's voice dropped to a temperature that could freeze hell. "Let her go." Marco's hand sprang open like he'd been electrocuted. I stumbled back, rubbing my arm where his fingers had dug in. "Nico will take her information," Valentino continued, his eyes finally leaving me to fix on Marco. "Then she'll finish her shift, uninterrupted. Understood?" It wasn't a question. Marco nodded frantically, backing away with the kind of fear that came from knowing exactly who he was dealing with. I stood there, trembling, as Nico pulled out a small notebook. "Your address, Miss Carter." I recited it mechanically, my mind still trying to process what had just happened. When I finished, Nico nodded once and returned to his post. Valentino picked up his glass of wine, which I hadn't even noticed before, and took a slow sip, his eyes returning to me over the rim. "Emma," he said softly, "go finish your shift, but understand something." He set the glass down with deliberate care. "I don't forget faces, I don't forget names, and I never forget a debt. I don't owe you anything," I said, finding my voice though it shook. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it held any warmth. No. I owe you. For what? Spilling water on you? For being brave enough to touch me. His eyes glittered with something I couldn't identify. Most people aren't. He gestured toward the dining room. A clear dismissal. I backed away on unsteady legs, my skin still burning where he'd touched me, where I'd touched him. As I walked back toward the kitchen, I could feel his eyes on me, following my every movement. When I reached the door, I couldn't help but glance back. He was still watching me, his expression unreadable, one finger slowly circling the rim of his wineglass, and I knew, with a certainty that terrified me, that this wasn't over. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. Marco avoided me like I carried a plague, and Uncle Salvatore, who'd emerged from his office looking pale, told me to take the next day off with pay. No one would explain why, but I saw how their hands shook when they spoke to me, how they looked at me like I was already a ghost. It was past midnight when I finally stepped out the back entrance into the alley, my body screaming for rest, my mind churning with questions. The November air bit at my exposed skin, and I pulled my threadbare coat tighter, my breath misting in the darkness. The alley was empty except for the dumpsters and the cats that prowled around them. I started walking toward the street, my footsteps echoing off the brick walls. I made it 3 steps before I heard it, the smooth purr of an expensive engine. A black car pulled into the alley behind me, its headlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights. My heart leaped into my throat. I walked faster, my hand fumbling in my purse for the pepper spray I'd bought but never used. The car kept pace with me, gliding along like a predator stalking prey. I broke into a run. "Miss Carter." The voice came from the car, calm, professional. I recognized it. Nico, the scarred guard. "Mr. Valentino requests your presence." I stopped running but didn't turn around. "Tell Mr. Valentino I'm tired and I want to go home. It's not safe for you to walk alone at this hour." The car pulled up beside me, and I could see Nico in the driver's seat now, his expression neutral. "Please, Miss Carter, get in the car. I'll take the bus." "The buses stopped running an hour ago. It's a 20-minute walk to your apartment through neighborhoods that aren't safe for anyone, let alone a woman alone at night." He was right, damn him. I'd done that walk before, my keys clutched between my fingers like claws, my heart in my throat every time a shadow moved. The back door of the car opened. Valentino sat in the darkness of the interior, barely visible except for the gleam of his eyes. "Emma, get in the car." It wasn't a request. I should have run. I should have screamed. I should have done anything except what I did. I got in the car. The car door closed behind me with a soft final click that sounded like a prison cell locking. The interior smelled of leather and that same cedar cologne, intoxicating, overwhelming. I pressed myself against the opposite door, maintaining as much distance as possible in the confined space. Valentino sat in perfect stillness, one arm draped along the back of the seat, his body angled toward me. In the dim light filtering through the tinted windows, his features looked carved from shadow and danger. "You're afraid of me," he observed, his voice carrying no particular emotion. "Should I be?" "Most people are." He tilted his head slightly, studying me with those midnight eyes. "But you got in the car anyway. You didn't give me much choice." "There's always a choice, Emma." The way he said my name, slow, deliberate, like he was claiming it, sent shivers down my spine. "You could have run. You could have screamed. But you didn't. Because I was tired. Because I was broke. Because some traitorous part of me wanted to know what happened next, wanted to understand why this dangerous man with his expensive suits and his armed guards had looked at me like I was something precious instead of invisible. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Home. Your home." He gestured forward, and Nico began driving, the car gliding through the dark streets with barely a sound. "Unless you'd prefer somewhere else." "No." I swallowed hard. "Home is fine." Silence settled between us, thick and charged. I could hear my own breathing, too loud in the quiet car, could feel his presence like heat from a furnace, even across the seat. "Marco is your ex-boyfriend," Valentino said suddenly. Not a question, a statement. My head whipped toward him. "How did you—" I know everything that happens in my restaurants." His fingers drummed once against the leather seat. "Uncle Salvatore is on my payroll, has been for 15 years. Which means everyone who works there is, by extension, under my protection. I don't need protection, no?" His eyes gleamed in the darkness. "The way he grabbed your arm suggests otherwise. The bruises forming on your skin suggest otherwise." I looked down at my arm, unable to see the marks in the dim light, but feeling the ache. "It's nothing. Marco's just careful." The word came out soft, deadly. "Choose your next words very carefully, Emma. Because if you're about to defend a man who puts his hands on you in anger, I'll have to reconsider my opinion of your intelligence." Heat flooded my cheeks, part shame, part anger. "You don't know anything about me. I know you've been working at Romano's for 3 months. I know you live in a studio apartment in Harlem with 2 roommates. I know your ex-boyfriend threw you out and you had nowhere else to go, so you took a job at his uncle's restaurant because you were desperate." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving mine. "I know that when you spilled water on me tonight, your first instinct wasn't to apologize. It was to fix it, to help. Even when you were terrified, my throat tightened. You had me investigated. I had you researched. There's a difference." He reached into his jacket, and I tensed. But he only pulled out a phone, sleek, expensive, probably worth more than everything I owned. He tapped the screen a few times, then held it out to me. I took it hesitantly, looking at the screen. It showed a bank account. My bank account. The balance made my stomach drop, $247.32. "How did you—" "Scroll down." I did, my hands shaking. Below my account balance was another number, this one freshly added. A deposit pending, $50,000. The phone slipped from my fingers. Valentino caught it before it hit the floor, his reflexes inhumanly fast. "What is this?" I whispered. "Compensation. For the distress you suffered tonight, I spilled water on you. That doesn't warrant $50,000. No." He pocketed the phone, his expression unreadable. "But having my employee assaulted in my establishment does. Consider it severance pay." "Severance? I'm fired?" "You're done working at Romano's, yes. You're also done living in that apartment, done taking the bus, done pretending you're fine when you're one missed paycheck away from being on the street." Anger flared in my chest, hot and sudden. "You can't just swoop into my life and rearrange it like I'm a chess piece. I don't know you. I don't want your money." "Yes, you do." His voice remained calm, infuriatingly certain. "You're just too proud to admit it, too used to suffering to recognize a way out when it's offered. This isn't a way out. This is a transaction. And I don't know what you're buying, but I'm not for sale." The car stopped. I looked out the window and realized we were in front of my building, a rundown brownstone with broken steps and windows covered in grates. Valentino looked at the building, something dark crossing his features. "You live here?" "Yes." "On the 3rd floor. No elevator. Broken lock on the front door. Your bedroom window faces the fire escape, where 3 nights ago someone tried to break in." Ice flooded my veins. "How could you possibly—" "Because I own this building, Emma." He turned those midnight eyes back to me. "I own half the buildings in this neighborhood. And when my people told me one of my tenants had almost been assaulted, I wanted to know who dropped the ball on security. Your people didn't drop anything. I didn't report it. Why not? Because reporting things meant dealing with police, with questions, with systems that had never protected people like me. Because I'd learned that the only person I could rely on was myself." I reached for the door handle. "Thank you for the ride." His hand shot out, wrapping around my wrist, the same wrist he'd held in the restaurant. His touch was firm, but not painful. His thumb finding my pulse point again. "The money will be in your account by morning. Use it or don't. That's your choice. But you're not working at Romano's anymore, and you're not staying in this building. You can't tell me what to do." "I can, actually." He pulled me closer, just slightly, just enough that I could see the flecks of silver in his dark eyes. "But I'd prefer if you chose it yourself." "Chose what?" "Safety. Comfort. A life where you don't have to be afraid every time you walk home at night. And what do you get out of it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "That depends on you. I'm not going to sleep with you for money." Good, because I don't pay for sex, Emma. When you come to my bed, and you will, it will be because you can't stay away, because you wake up thinking about me and go to sleep remembering how my hand felt on your skin. The confidence in his words, the absolute certainty, should have infuriated me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my belly, made my breath catch. You're insane, I managed. Perhaps. He released my wrist, but his eyes held me captive. Go inside, Emma. Lock your door. Tomorrow someone will come to help you move your things. Where you move to is your choice. I have several properties available, all safe, all secure, all yours if you want them. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's an investment. He leaned back, creating distance between us that somehow felt more intimate than closeness. You interest me. That doesn't happen often. I'd like to see what you do when you're not drowning. And if I refuse, if I stay here, keep living my life, then I'll be disappointed. But I don't force anyone into anything, Emma. The choice is always yours. His expression hardened slightly. Though I should mention that Marco will no longer be a problem. He won't bother you again. What did you do? Nothing he didn't deserve, and nothing permanent. I'm not completely unreasonable. He nodded toward the building. Go. It's late and you need rest. I opened the door, the cold November air rushing in. Before I could step out, his voice stopped me. Emma. I looked back. You touched me tonight. Do you know how rare that is? How long it's been since anyone dared to put their hands on me without permission? I shook my head. Neither do I. His eyes glittered in the darkness. But I remember every second of it. The way your hand felt against my leg, the way you looked at me when you realized what you'd done. The way you didn't pull away immediately. You froze, like you'd touched something burning and couldn't decide if the pain was worth it. My mouth went dry. Sleep well, Emma Carter. Dream of me if you're brave enough. I fled from the car, my heart pounding, his words echoing in my skull. Behind me, I heard the car door close, heard the engine purr to life. I didn't look back as I climbed the steps to my building, fumbled with my keys, pushed through the broken door. Only when I was inside my apartment, door locked and chained, did I let myself breathe. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Check your bank account in the morning. The offer stands. DV. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. But I didn't block the number. That night, I dreamed of midnight eyes and dangerous promises, of cedar cologne and velvet voices. I dreamed of being trapped and free at the same time, of cages made of silk and chains made of choice. When I woke, pale morning light filtering through my thin curtains, I grabbed my phone with shaking hands. My bank balance, 50,147.32. I stared at the number until my eyes burned, until my roommate knocked on my door asking if I was okay, until I realized I was crying and couldn't remember when I'd started. The money was real. The offer was real. Dante Valentino was real, and I had absolutely no idea what to do about any of it. By noon, I'd convinced myself it was all a fever dream. That I'd hallucinated the entire night. That no one like Dante Valentino would waste his time on someone like me. Marco had been right. No one wanted me. I was nothing. The knock on my door shattered that delusion. Emma Carter? The woman standing in my doorway looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Perfectly tailored suit, immaculate hair, smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. My name is Gabriella Rossi. Mr. Valentino sent me. My stomach dropped. I didn't agree to anything. I'm aware. I'm simply here to present your options. She glanced past me into my tiny apartment, her expression carefully neutral. May I come in? What choice did I have? I stepped aside. Gabriella entered with the air of someone conducting a military inspection, her heels clicking on the worn linoleum. She set a leather briefcase on my kitchen table, which was really just a card table someone had left on the curb, and opened it with practiced efficiency. Mr. Valentino has arranged 3 properties for your consideration. She pulled out a tablet, swiping through images. The first is a 1-bedroom in Tribeca. Top floor, doorman, gym, rooftop access. Stop, I held up a hand. I can't afford any of this. All rent is covered for the first year. After that, we can discuss arrangements based on your employment situation. My employment. I don't have a job. He fired me. He ended your employment at Romano's, yes. But Mr. Valentino believes in taking care of his investments. He has several positions available within his various enterprises, should you be interested. Gabriella's smile sharpened. All legitimate, I assure you. He owns restaurants, real estate companies, import businesses. He's in the Mafia. The words hung in the air. Gabriella's expression didn't change. Mr. Valentino is a businessman with diverse interests. What matters is whether you're interested in his offer of employment and housing, not speculation about his personal affairs. This is insane. Perhaps. Gabriella closed the tablet, but it's also an opportunity most people never receive. Mr. Valentino doesn't extend his protection lightly, Miss Carter. The fact that he's doing so now suggests he sees something in you worth protecting. Or something worth owning. If that were true, you wouldn't have a choice in the matter, but you do. You can refuse all of this, keep living here, keep struggling, or you can accept help from someone who has the means to provide it. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me, Miss Carter, when was the last time someone offered you something without expecting you to debase yourself for it? Never. The answer rose unbidden. Marco had made sure I knew exactly what my worth was, had reminded me constantly that I should be grateful he'd ever looked at me twice. What does he really want? I whispered. I honestly don't know. Mr. Valentino doesn't confide in me about his personal motivations. But I've worked for him for 8 years, and I've never seen him take an interest in anyone like this. Gabriella's expression softened fractionally. Whatever his reasons, the offer is genuine, and you'd be a fool to refuse it out of pride. She left the tablet on the table, along with 3 key cards and a business card with her number. Take the day to think about it. Look at the properties. The addresses are in the tablet. Make your choice or don't, but understand that this offer won't last forever. Mr. Valentino is many things, but patient isn't one of them. After she left, I sat at my card table for an hour, staring at the tablet. Then I grabbed my coat and went to see the apartments. The Tribeca apartment was obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River, hardwood floors that gleamed like honey, a kitchen with marble countertops and appliances I didn't know how to operate. The bedroom was larger than my entire current apartment, with a walk-in closet that echoed when I stepped inside. I stood in the empty living room, my reflection ghostly in the windows, and felt the weight of it all pressing down on me. This wasn't help. This was possession dressed up as generosity. I left without taking the key. The second apartment in the Upper West Side was smaller, but no less elegant. Pre-war building with crown molding and a clawfoot tub that probably cost more than a car. The doorman had tipped his hat to me like I belonged there, like I wasn't wearing a coat with a broken zipper and boots with worn-down heels. I couldn't breathe in that building, couldn't imagine walking through that lobby every day, pretending I deserved to be there. The third property wasn't an apartment at all. It was a townhouse in Greenwich Village, narrow and brick-faced, wedged between a coffee shop and a vintage bookstore. 3 stories, according to the tablet. Garden in the back. The key card opened a red door that looked like it had been there for 100 years. Inside, the air smelled like old wood and possibility. The first floor was open, living room flowing into a dining area. Kitchen with butcher block counters and windows overlooking a small garden where ivy climbed a brick wall. The furniture was minimal but comfortable, nothing ostentatious. Books lined built-in shelves, their spines cracked with use. Someone had lived here, someone who read, who cooked, who cared about light and space, and the way morning sun fell across wooden floors. I climbed the stairs, my hand trailing along the smooth banister. The second floor held a bathroom with subway tiles and a deep tub, and a bedroom that faced the garden. The bed was already made, white linens crisp and inviting. The third floor was a surprise, an artist's studio with skylights and exposed brick, empty except for an easel in the corner and paint-splattered drop cloths. I stood in that studio for 20 minutes, watching dust motes dance in the light, and felt something crack open in my chest. This wasn't a cage. This was a home. My phone buzzed. Unknown. Do you like it? DV. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. He was watching somehow, or having me watched. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I typed back, "How did you know about the studio?" The response came immediately. "I did my research. You studied art at NYU for 2 years before you ran out of money. You haven't painted since." I sat down on the floor, my back against the brick wall, and typed, "This is too much. Unknown. It's not enough. But it's a start. Why are you doing this?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. When his response finally came, it was longer than before. "Unknown. Because when you put your hand on my leg last night, you looked at me like I was human. Not a monster, not a bank account, not something to fear or use, just a man. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Do you know how long it's been since someone saw me instead of my reputation?" My throat tightened. I typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, "I was terrified of you. Unknown. You were. But you touched me anyway. That's bravery, Emma. And I collect rare things. I'm not a thing. Unknown. No. You're a person who deserves better than the life you've been living. Let me give you that. No strings, no expectations. Just let me." I looked around the studio, at the light streaming through the skylights, at the easel waiting in the corner, thought about going back to my apartment with its broken lock and thin walls, about finding another job that would barely cover rent, about spending the rest of my life invisible and exhausted. Why should I trust you? Unknown. You shouldn't. I'm not a good man, Emma, but I keep my word, and I protect what's mine. You don't have to be mine, not in the way you're thinking, but you're under my protection now, whether you accept this house or not. The only question is whether you'll be comfortable while I keep you safe. That sounds like a threat. Unknown. It's a promise. There's a difference. I stood up, walked to the window, looked down at the garden. My fingers found my phone again. I'll take the house. But I want to work. I won't be kept. Unknown. Gabriella will send you employment options tomorrow. Choose whatever interests you. Or take time to paint. That's work too. When do I see you again? The 3 dots appeared and stayed for a long time. Unknown. Soon. When you're ready. For now, settle in. Make the house yours. I'll know when you need me. How? Unknown. I always know. The conversation ended there. I sat in the empty studio until the sun began to set, painting the brick walls gold, then amber, then shadow. Then I went back to my apartment and started packing. Moving took less time than I expected. I didn't own much. Clothes that barely filled 2 suitcases, books I'd collected from thrift stores, a few photographs of a family I barely spoke to anymore. My roommates barely looked up when I told them I was leaving, too absorbed in their own lives to question where I was going. Marco called 17 times that night. I blocked his number after the 5th voicemail, his voice progressing from confused to angry to something that sounded almost like fear. The next morning, a black car arrived. Not the one from before. This one was smaller, less intimidating. The driver introduced himself as Tommy, middle-aged with kind eyes and a Brooklyn accent. "Mr. Valentino wanted to make sure you got settled okay," he said, loading my pitiful belongings into the trunk. "He also wanted me to give you this." He handed me a phone, new, expensive, already activated. When I turned it on, there was only one contact saved, DV. "He said your old phone wasn't secure enough," Tommy explained, starting the car. "This one is, encrypted, untraceable, and before you ask, no, he's not tracking you. He just wants to make sure you can reach him if you need to." "How do I know he's not tracking me?" Tommy's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, crinkled with what might have been amusement. "Miss Carter, if Mr. Valentino wanted to track you, he wouldn't need a phone. He'd just need to want to know where you were. That's how it works with him. He gets what he wants because people are too afraid not to give it to him, but he doesn't take. He asks, he offers, he makes it impossible to refuse, but he doesn't take. That's a very fine line, maybe. But I've worked for him for 12 years, and I've never seen him hurt someone who didn't deserve it. Make of that what you will." We drove through the city in silence after that, the morning sun turning everything to gold. When we pulled up to the townhouse, Tommy helped me carry my things inside, setting them in the entryway with careful precision. "There's food in the kitchen," he said. Gabriella had it stocked yesterday, and there's a package for you on the dining table." After he left, I found the package, a large flat box wrapped in brown paper. Inside were canvases, brushes, and paint supplies that probably cost more than my old car. No note, no explanation, just the tools to create, waiting for me to be brave enough to use them. I spent the afternoon unpacking, hanging my meager clothes in the closet that could have held 20 times more. The house was warm, the heating system working perfectly, unlike my old apartment where I'd worn layers to bed. I made tea in the beautiful kitchen, sat in the garden even though it was cold, watched the ivy sway in the wind. By evening, I was standing in front of the easel with a blank canvas, a brush in my hand, and absolutely no idea what to paint. My new phone buzzed. DV. Don't think, just feel. Let your hand move. I stared at the message, then at the canvas. Slowly, I dipped my brush in black paint and made a single stroke across the white surface. Then another, and another. Hours passed. The sun set, the studio lights came on automatically, and I painted like someone possessed. Dark colors at first, blacks and grays and deep purples. But then other shades began to emerge. Crimson like the booth at Romano's. Gold like expensive cufflinks. Midnight blue like eyes that saw too much. When I finally stepped back, my hands cramping, my shoulders aching, I realized I'd painted a cage. But the door was open, and light was streaming through the bars, and I couldn't tell if something was escaping or entering. My phone buzzed again. DV. Better? Me. How did you know I needed to paint? DV. Because I know what it's like to have something essential locked away. Come to dinner tomorrow night. My heart stuttered. Where? DV. My home. Tommy will pick you up at 7. Dress however you're comfortable. What if I say no? DV. Then I'll be disappointed, but I'll respect your choice. I always do. I looked at the painting, at the open cage door, at the light that could have been freedom or imprisonment depending on how you looked at it. Me. Okay, but this doesn't mean anything. DV. It means you're brave enough to see where this goes. That's everything. I tried on every piece of clothing I owned the next day. Nothing felt right. Everything was too worn, too cheap, too obviously not meant for dining with a mafia boss in his home. Finally, I settled on a simple black dress I'd worn to job interviews, paired with the only shoes I owned without scuff marks. In the mirror, I looked exactly like what I was. A girl playing dress-up, pretending to belong in a world that would eat her alive. Tommy arrived at precisely 7, his smile kind when he saw me. You look beautiful, Miss Carter. I look terrified. That too. But Mr. Valentino appreciates honesty more than confidence. The drive took 40 minutes, heading north out of the city. I watched the buildings thin out, replaced by trees and walls and gates that suggested wealth beyond measure. When Tommy finally turned onto a private road, my stomach tightened. The house, if you could call it that, sat on a hill overlooking the Hudson. It was massive but elegant, all stone and glass, lights glowing warm in the gathering dusk. Gardens surrounded it, manicured but not ostentatious. A fountain burbled somewhere nearby. This is his home? I whispered. One of them, Tommy said. He has places in the city too, but this is where he comes when he wants privacy. The front door opened as we approached, and Nico stood there, the scarred guard from the restaurant. He nodded at Tommy, then turned his attention to me. Miss Carter, welcome. Mr. Valentino is in the dining room. The interior of the house was breathtaking. High ceilings, art that probably belonged in museums, furniture that looked both expensive and comfortable, but it didn't feel cold or sterile. Books were stacked on tables. A jacket was thrown over a chair. Music played softly from hidden speakers. Someone actually lived here. Nico led me through the house, our footsteps echoing on marble floors, until we reached a set of double doors. He opened them, then stepped back, allowing me to enter alone. The dining room was smaller than I expected. Intimate despite its elegance, a table set for 2, candles flickering, windows overlooking the darkening river. And standing by those windows, silhouetted against the dying light, was Dante Valentino. He turned as I entered, and the breath left my lungs. He wore black again, seemed to be his signature, But tonight it was just slacks and a shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars. His hair was slightly mussed, like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked younger somehow, less like a predator and more like a man. A dangerously beautiful man who was looking at me like I was the only thing in the room worth seeing. Emma. My name on his lips sent shivers down my spine. You came. I said I would. People often say things they don't mean. He moved toward me with that predatory grace, stopping just close enough that I could smell his cologne. Thank you for being honest. I'm always honest. Sometimes stupidly so. His lips curved. I'm counting on that. He pulled out a chair for me, his hand brushing my shoulder as I sat. The touch lasted only a second, but left my skin burning. He took the seat across from me, close enough that our knees almost touched under the table. I hope you like Italian, he said. I had my chef prepare something special. You have a chef. I have many people who work for me. It's one of the perks of being who I am. He poured wine into my glass, the movement economical and practiced. But tonight, it's just us. No guards, no staff, just dinner and conversation. Nico is outside. Nico is always outside, but he won't disturb us unless the house is burning down. He raised his glass. To new beginnings. I lifted mine, our glasses chiming softly as they touched. The wine was probably worth more than I used to make in a month. You're nervous, he observed. Shouldn't I be? You're a dangerous man, and I'm sitting in your house, alone with you. If I wanted to hurt you, Emma, I wouldn't have bothered with dinner. His eyes glittered in the candlelight. When I take something, I don't need seduction. I just take. But with you, I find I want something different. What do you want? He set down his glass, leaning forward slightly. I want to know what you're thinking when you look at me like that. I want to understand why you paint cages with open doors. I want to watch you slowly realize that you're safe here, that you can breathe without looking over your shoulder. And then what? Then we see what happens when you stop being afraid and start being curious. His words hung between us, loaded with implication. Before I could respond, Nico appeared with the first course. Something delicate and beautifully plated that I couldn't identify. Eat. Dante said softly, let me take care of you, just for tonight. And God help me, I did. Dinner was a revelation, not just the food. Though every bite was exquisite, flavors I'd never experienced, ingredients I couldn't pronounce. But the conversation. Dante asked questions that pierced through small talk, that demanded real answers. What did I paint before I stopped? What did I dream about? What made me feel alive? And he listened. Actually listened, his dark eyes never leaving mine. His attention so complete it felt like being seen under a microscope. Not judged, just observed. Catalogued. Understood. You're doing it again, I said halfway through the main course. My tongue loosened by wine and his unsettling focus. Doing what? Looking at me like I'm a puzzle you're trying to solve. Perhaps you are. He set down his fork, leaning back in his chair. The candlelight cast shadows across his face, making him look older, harder. Most people I meet want something from me. Money, power, protection. They come to me with angles, with schemes, with fear barely hidden behind forced smiles. But you, he tilted his head. You don't want anything. You're not trying to manipulate or seduce or survive me. You're just here, present, real. You say that like it's rare. In my world, it's extinct. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine where they rested near my wine glass. Do you know what I did today, Emma? I shook my head, my skin burning where he touched me. I sat through 3 meetings about territory disputes. I authorized payment to city officials who pretend they're not in my pocket. I dealt with a traitor in my organization who thought he could steal from me without consequences. His voice remained conversational, almost gentle. But something dark flickered in his eyes. I live in a world where trust is currency, and betrayal is inevitable, where everyone has a price, and loyalty lasts exactly as long as the check's clear. That sounds lonely. His fingers tightened on mine. It is. But then you spilled water on me and looked at me like I was just a man who needed help. And I thought, what would it be like to have someone look at me that way every day, Someone who doesn't flinch when I enter a room, who doesn't calculate angles when they speak to me. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're kind despite having every reason to be bitter. I know you're talented, but convinced yourself you're not. I know your ex-boyfriend spent 3 years telling you that you were worthless, and part of you still believes him. He stood, moving around the table until he was beside me, looking down with an intensity that stole my breath. I know that when I touch you, your pulse races, and I know you hate yourself a little for responding to me. He wasn't wrong. God, he wasn't wrong about any of it. What do you want from me, Dante? The question came out as a whisper. He reached down, his fingers sliding under my chin, tilting my face up to his. Everything. But I'll settle for honesty. His thumb brushed my lower lip, and I couldn't suppress the shiver that ran through me. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me you don't lie awake thinking about my hand on your skin. Tell me you're not curious what it would be like to let me take care of you, to stop fighting and just surrender. I'm terrified, I breathed. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. He leaned down, his lips hovering inches from mine, his breath warm against my skin. But I'm terrified too, Emma, because I don't do this. I don't invite women to my home. I don't cook for them. Yes, I cook tonight. My chef is actually visiting his mother in Sicily. I don't sit here and bleed out my loneliness hoping they'll understand. Then why? Because you make me want to. His voice dropped to something rough, raw. Because for the first time in longer than I can remember, I want something more than power, or control, or revenge. I want you. Your laugh. Your art. Your terrible habit of saying exactly what you're thinking. I want to watch you paint in that studio I set up. I want to know what you look like when you're not exhausted or afraid. He stopped himself, pulling back with visible effort, his jaw clenched, a muscle jumping beneath the skin. I'm saying too much, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. You should go. Tommy will take you home. No. The word surprised us both. I stood, my legs unsteady, and closed the distance between us. Up close, I could see details I'd missed before. Faint scars on his knuckles, a thin white line along his jaw, the way his eyes weren't pure black, but swirled with deep brown and gray. I don't want to go, I said. I want to understand this, whatever this is. This is dangerous. Everything about you is dangerous. Exactly. His hands came up to grip my shoulders, not hard but firm, holding me in place. I'm not a good man, Emma. The things I've done, the choices I've made, they don't wash clean. People fear me for reasons that have nothing to do with my reputation and everything to do with what I'm capable of. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to give you a chance to run before it's too late. I reached up slowly, my hand shaking, and pressed my palm against his chest. His heart thundered beneath my touch, racing as fast as mine. What if I don't want to run? Something broke in his expression. Control slipping. The mask cracking. His hand slid from my shoulders to my face, cradling it like I was something precious and breakable. Then God help us both, he whispered, and kissed me. The world caught fire. His lips were soft but demanding, taking and giving simultaneously. One hand tangled in my hair, while the other pressed against the small of my back, pulling me flush against him. I could feel every hard line of his body, the coiled strength beneath expensive clothes, the heat radiating from his skin. I'd been kissed before. Marco had kissed me hundreds of times. Quick pecks, obligatory affection, mechanical motions that meant nothing. This wasn't that. This was consumption. This was being devoured and wanting more, drowning and gasping for air and not caring if I ever surfaced. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine, his eyes closed, his hands still cradling my face. Emma, he breathed. Tell me to stop. No. Tell me this is insane, that it's too fast, that you need time. No. I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze when he looked at me. I spent 3 years playing it safe with someone who treated me like garbage. I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of being afraid. You should be afraid of me. Maybe. But I'm more afraid of going back to who I was before you. My hands fisted in his shirt. Show me what happens when I stop running. The sound he made was almost a growl. He kissed me again, Harder this time, less controlled. His hands roamed my back, my sides, learning the shape of me through my dress. When his lips moved to my neck, I gasped, my knees weakening. "Upstairs," he muttered against my skin. "Not here. You deserve better than being taken on a dining room table like... I don't care where." He pulled back, his eyes searching mine. "You're sure?" "I'm sure I want this. I'm sure I want you. Everything else..." I took a shaky breath. "Everything else we'll figure out." Something shifted in his expression. Possession mixed with something softer. Something that looked almost like relief. He lifted me like I weighed nothing, my legs wrapping around his waist instinctively. I could feel his arousal pressing against me, hard and insistent. He carried me through the house, taking stairs I barely registered, pushing through a door into a bedroom that was all shadows and moonlight. The bed was massive, covered in dark sheets that looked like midnight given form. He set me down gently, his hands immediately going to the zipper of my dress. "Last chance, Emma. After this, you're mine. Say no now, and Tommy will take you home, and we'll pretend this never happened." "I don't want to pretend." I reached up, starting to unbutton his shirt with trembling fingers. "I want to feel something real." His hands covered mine, stilling them. "This is real, too real, and tomorrow, you might hate me for it, or I might finally understand what I've been missing." He kissed me again, and this time there was no holding back. Clothes fell away, my dress pooling at my feet, his shirt sliding off shoulders marked with more scars than I'd expected. I traced them with my fingers, wanting to know the story of each one, but he caught my hand. "Don't," he said roughly. "They're not beautiful. They're reminders of every time I wasn't fast enough, smart enough, careful enough. They're proof you survived." I pulled my hand free and continued my exploration. "That's beautiful enough." He made that sound again, half growl, half groan, and bore me back onto the bed. His weight settled over me, solid and warm, his hands everywhere. When he paused to look at me, sprawled beneath him in nothing but my underwear, something fierce crossed his face. "Mine," he said softly. "Say it." "I'm not..." "Say it anyway, just for tonight. Let me have this." "Yours," I whispered, and watched his eyes go dark with want. What followed was both gentle and consuming. He took his time, learning every inch of my skin, finding places that made me gasp, made me arch into his touch. When he finally settled between my legs, his eyes locked on mine, I felt split open in the best possible way. "Stay with me," he commanded, his voice rough. "Don't close your eyes. Let me see you." So I did. I watched his face as he moved inside me, watched control slip away, watched the dangerous Mafia boss become just a man desperate for connection. His hand found mine, fingers interlacing, pinning my arm above my head, not aggressive, but claiming, possessive. When I shattered, his name on my lips, he followed moments later, his face buried in my neck, my name a prayer against my skin. Afterward, we lay tangled together, sweat cooling on our skin, heart slowly returning to normal. His hand traced patterns on my back, idle, soothing. "Stay tonight," he murmured into my hair. "Let me keep you here, safe, just for a few hours." I felt him smile
Okay.
against my temple. That was easier than expected. I'm tired of fighting everything. I turned in his arms, meeting his eyes in the darkness. "But Dante, this doesn't mean I'm yours. Not really. Not in the way you want. I know." His hand cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheekbone. "But you're here now. You let me touch you, taste you, hold you. That's enough. For now. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we figure out what this is. But tonight," he pulled me closer, tucking my head under his chin. "Tonight, just sleep. I've got you." And surrounded by his warmth, his scent, the steady beat of his heart, I did. I woke to gray morning light and the smell of coffee. Dante sat in a chair by the window, fully dressed in fresh clothes, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. A mug steamed on the nightstand beside the bed, cream, No sugar. Exactly how I liked it. You remembered, I said, my voice rough with sleep. I remember everything about you. He stood, moving to sit on the edge of the bed. How do you feel? Confused, satisfied, terrified. I sat up, clutching the sheet to my chest. Normal? His lips curved. There's nothing normal about this, but I'll take confused and terrified over regretful. I don't regret it. I took the coffee, grateful for something to do with my hands. But I don't know what happens now. Now, we figure out how to navigate this. You, me, the complications that come with being in my life. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. But first, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped at his tone. What? Your ex-boyfriend, Marco. His jaw tightened. He's been asking around about you, trying to find out where you live now, who's protecting you. My people have kept him away, but he's persistent. He's harmless. Just bitter that I left. No. Dante's voice hardened. He's dangerous because he's desperate. And desperate men do stupid things. I need you to promise me something, Emma. What? Don't go anywhere without Tommy or one of my other drivers. Don't answer the door unless you know who it is. And if Marco contacts you in any way, you tell me immediately. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. Not of me, of men like Marco who think they own women just because they slept with them. His hand gripped mine. I won't let him near you, but I need you to be smart about this. Okay, I squeezed his hand back. I promise. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Tommy's waiting downstairs. He'll take you home. Home, I repeated, to the townhouse you gave me. Yes. Where I'll paint in the studio you set up, eat food you paid for, sleep in a bed you provided. His expression didn't change. Yes. And last night? What was that? That was me being selfish, taking something I wanted and pretending it wouldn't complicate everything. He stood, creating distance. But it doesn't change the fundamentals. You need protection. I can provide it. What happened between us? He paused. That can be whatever you want it to be. And what do you want it to be? Everything. The word came out raw, honest. But I'll settle for knowing you're safe. I set down the coffee and stood, wrapping the sheet around myself toga style. I should go. Emma? No, it's fine. It's a lot. I need to think. I gathered my dress from the floor, my hands shaking slightly. Thank you for dinner. And for everything else. He watched me dress with those midnight eyes, saying nothing, his jaw clenched tight. When I finished, he walked me downstairs in silence, his hand occasionally brushing the small of my back. Possessive even in restraint, Tommy waited by the car, his expression carefully neutral. Dante opened the door for me, then caught my wrist before I could climb in. I meant what I said last night, he murmured, low enough that Tommy couldn't hear. You're mine, Emma. Whether you accept it or not, and I protect what's mine. That sounds like a promise, not a threat. There's a difference. He released me, stepping back. Go home. Paint. Live your life. But know that I'm watching, always, making sure you're safe. The drive back to the city felt endless. Tommy didn't try to make conversation, for which I was grateful. I stared out the window, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, and wondered what the hell I'd gotten myself into. When we pulled up to the townhouse, Tommy turned in his seat. Miss Carter? For what it's worth, I've never seen him like this. With anyone. Like what? Vulnerable. He smiled slightly. It's good for him. Keeps him human. Inside the townhouse, I stood in the studio and stared at the painting I'd made. The open cage, the light streaming through. Then I picked up a brush and began to paint again. This time I added a figure standing in the doorway. Not entering, not leaving, just waiting, deciding. My phone buzzed. DV, thank you for last night. For trusting me, even though you shouldn't, me. I still don't know if I do. DV, that's fair. Trust is earned, not given. I'll earn yours, Emma, however long it takes. I stared at the message, then at my painting, then out the window at the city beyond. And I realized I was already standing in the doorway. The only question was which way I'd step. 3 weeks passed in a strange, suspended reality. I painted every day, the studio becoming my sanctuary. Canvases lined the walls, some abstract explosions of color, others more deliberate. A man's hands cradling a broken bird, shadows that looked like wings or cages depending on the angle, a woman standing at the edge of a cliff, with her arms spread wide. Dante didn't visit, didn't call except for brief check-ins that felt more like surveillance than conversation. Are you eating? Sleeping? Safe? Always safe. Like the word itself could protect me from whatever darkness lived in his world. But his presence was everywhere. Fresh flowers appeared on my doorstep every Monday. Groceries materialized in my kitchen before I realized I needed them. Once, I came home to find my broken laptop replaced with a new one, my old files already transferred. "He's courting you," Gabriella explained during one of her weekly visits, ostensibly to discuss job options, but really to check on me. In his way, showing you he can take care of you without demanding anything in return. It feels like I'm a pet he's keeping. Does it? She raised an eyebrow. Or does it feel like someone finally noticed you exist and decided you deserved better? I couldn't answer that. Because she was right, and I hated how much I'd started to depend on his invisible care, how I'd catch myself wondering what he was doing, if he thought about that night as much as I did. Marco's attempts to contact me had stopped after the first week, abruptly, completely. I didn't ask what Dante had done, didn't want to know. Then on a Tuesday afternoon while I was mixing paint, my phone rang. Not the encrypted one Dante had given me, my old phone, the one I'd kept out of stubborn independence. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Emma Carter? The voice was female, crisp, professional. "My name is Detective Sarah Chen. I'm with the NYPD. I'd like to ask you some questions about Dante Valentino." My blood turned to ice. "I don't know what you're talking about. Miss Carter, we know you've been living in a property owned by Mr. Valentino. We know his driver has been transporting you. We know you had dinner at his estate." A pause. "We're building a case, and we could really use your cooperation." I have nothing to say. Even if it could help put a dangerous criminal behind bars? Even if your testimony could— I hung up, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. It rang again immediately. I turned it off, staring at the black screen like it might explode. The encrypted phone buzzed in my pocket. "DV, the police contacted you. Not a question, a statement. He really did know everything." Me. "How did you—" "DV, I need you to listen very carefully. Do not speak to them. Do not answer their questions. Do not try to help them." Me. "Are you guilty of what they think you are?" The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. When his response finally came, it was longer than usual. "DV, I've done things that would horrify you. Made choices that keep me awake at night, but I've also protected people who couldn't protect themselves, provided for families who would have starved, kept order in chaos. The law sees everything in black and white. My world exists in shades of gray so dark they're almost black. Am I guilty? By their standards, absolutely. By mine, I sleep fine." Me. "That's not reassuring. DV. It's honest, which is what you asked for." Me. "What happens if I talk to them?" DV. "To you? Nothing. I'd never hurt you, no matter what you did. To them, they'd get information they can't use because I'm too careful. To us, this thing between us, whatever it is, would be over, because I can't be with someone who doesn't understand that loyalty is the only currency that matters in my world." I stared at the message, my throat tight. He was asking me to choose, him or the law, safety or righteousness, the man I was falling for, or the principles I'd been raised with. Me. "I need to think." DV. "Take all the time you need. But Emma, be smart. Detective Chen isn't trying to help you. She's trying to use you." I sat on the studio floor for an hour, phone clutched in my hand, mind spinning. The painting behind me, the woman on the cliff, suddenly felt prophetic. Jump and hope you fly, or step back to solid ground. My old phone buzzed with a text. "Detective Chen, we can protect you. Whatever hold he has on you, we can break it. Call me. I looked between the two phones, one representing law and order and doing the right thing, the other representing a man who'd given me everything and asked for nothing except trust. I picked up the encrypted phone and called him. He answered on the first ring. Emma, I won't talk to them, I said. Not because you told me not to, but because I don't know anything worth telling. I don't know your business. I don't know what you do. I just know. I swallowed hard. I know you've been kinder to me than anyone else in my life, and that has to count for something. Silence. Then, where are you? Home. The townhouse. Stay there. I'm coming to you. Dante, 20 minutes. Please, Emma. Just wait for me. He hung up before I could respond. He arrived in 15. I heard the car pull up, heard his footsteps on the stairs. Quick. Urgent. The door opened without a knock, and suddenly he was there, filling the studio with his presence. He looked different, disheveled. His hair was a mess, like he'd been running his hands through it, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes wild with something I couldn't name. You stayed, he said. You asked me to. You could have run. Could have called Detective Chen back. Could have... He crossed the room in 3 strides, his hands cupping my face. Do you understand what you just did? What choosing me means? I didn't choose you. I chose to not betray you. There's a difference. No. His forehead pressed against mine, his breath ragged. There isn't. Not in my world. You picked a side, Emma. Mine. And that changes everything. I don't understand. The police will come after you harder now. They'll investigate you, dig into your life, try to find leverage. You'll be photographed, followed, questioned. Your name will be in files, connected to mine. You can't take that back. Fear spiked through me. You said I'd be safe. You will be. I'll make sure of it. But safe doesn't mean untouched. Doesn't mean your life won't change. Doesn't mean... He pulled back, his eyes searching mine. I need you to be sure, right now, before this goes any further. Because once you're marked as mine, that's permanent. Other families will see you as leverage. My enemies will see you as a target. The police will see you as an accomplice. Then why did you ask me to choose? Because I'm selfish. His voice broke slightly. Because I've spent 3 weeks trying to stay away from you, trying to give you space, trying to convince myself that you'd be better off without me. But then they came after you and I realized, I can't let you go. Won't. Even knowing it puts you in danger. Even knowing I'm destroying any chance you had at a normal life. Maybe I don't want normal. I reached up, covering his hands with mine. Maybe I'm tired of being invisible, of being safe and small and insignificant. Maybe I want to matter, even if it's dangerous. You matter to me, he said it fiercely. More than anything. More than business. More than territory. More than any of it. And that terrifies me, because I've never had something to lose before. Never had someone I couldn't bear to see hurt. Then don't hurt me. I pulled his hands down, holding them between us. Don't lie to me. Don't hide from me. Let me see all of it. The good, the bad, the parts that would horrify me. Let me choose with full knowledge. He studied me for a long moment, something shifting behind his eyes. Then he stepped back, rolling up his sleeves to reveal more scars, some old and faded, others newer. I got this one when I was 16, he said, pointing to a jagged line on his forearm. First knife fight. I won, but barely. This one, he touched his ribs. Bullet. 3 years ago. Rival family tried to take me out during a meeting, killed 2 of my men. I survived because Nico threw himself in front of me. I listened as he catalogued his scars, each one a story of violence, of choices made in darkness. When he finished, he looked at me with something raw in his expression. I've killed people, Emma. Not randomly, not cruelly, but I've ended lives. I've ordered deaths. I've done things that would make you look at me differently if you knew the details. The man you slept with, the man you're protecting, he's built on bones and blood and decisions most people couldn't live with. Are you trying to make me leave? I'm trying to give you the truth. He stepped closer again, before you decide if you can live with it. Because once you're truly mine, not just in my bed, Not just in my protection, but in my life. There's no going back. You'll be part of this world, forever. I looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd given me a home, space to create, safety I'd never known, who'd respected my boundaries while clearly dying to cross them, who was now offering me honesty, even though it might drive me away. I'm already part of it, I said softly. The moment I got in your car that first night, the moment I accepted the townhouse, the moment I let you touch me, I crossed over. Maybe I was naive not to see it, but I see it now. And I'm still here. Emma. I'm not saying I'm okay with everything you've done. I don't even know what all of it is, but I'm saying that I see you, really see you, and I'm not running. Not yet. Maybe that makes me stupid or naive or complicit, but it's the truth. He closed his eyes, his jaw working. When he opened them again, they were fierce with possession and something deeper. You're mine, he said. Say it for real this time, not just for a night. What does that mean? What are you asking? Everything. Move in with me. Let me take care of you properly. Be with me, publicly, knowing what it means. Let me... He paused, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. Let me love you, if you'll let me. The world tilted. Love. I've been falling since you touched my leg and looked at me like I was human. Falling harder every time you paint something beautiful. Every time you stand up to me, every time you choose honesty over safety. He reached for me slowly, giving me time to pull away. I don't know how to do this gently, how to be normal or patient or anything other than obsessed, but I know I want you beside me, always. I know I'll burn down the world before I let anyone hurt you. I know. I kissed him, rose on my toes and pressed my lips to his, cutting off his words with action. He froze for a heartbeat, then hauled me against him with a groan, his arms banding around me like he was trying to absorb me into his skin. When we broke apart, both breathless, I said, yes. Yes. Yes to moving in. Yes to being yours. Yes to whatever this insane, dangerous thing is. I gripped his shirt. But Dante, if you ever lie to me, if you ever make me a pawn in your games, if you ever treat me like property instead of a person, I'm gone. I don't care how much you've given me or how much I feel for you. Are we clear? Crystal. He kissed me again, softer. I promise. No lies, no games, just us figuring this out together. Even when it's hard, especially then. He picked me up, carrying me out of the studio and down the stairs. What are you doing? Taking you home. My home. Where you belong. He paused at the door, looking at me seriously. Last chance, Emma. Walk away now, and I'll let you go. I'll keep you safe from a distance. Make sure the police leave you alone, but I'll stay out of your life, or come with me and accept everything that means. The danger, the scrutiny, the fact that you're choosing a criminal over a normal life. I looked back at the townhouse, at the studio where I'd rediscovered myself, at the space he'd given me to heal. Then I looked at him, at the man behind the monster, at the loneliness and longing he tried so hard to hide. Take me home, I said. 6 months later, I stood in the garden of Dante's estate, paint on my hands, sun on my face. The exhibition had been a success. My first showing in 3 years, every piece sold, critics actually using words like raw and powerful and emerging talent. But the best part was standing behind me, arms wrapped around my waist, chin resting on my shoulder. I'm proud of you, Dante murmured against my ear. You've said that 5 times today. I'll say it 500 more. You're brilliant, and the world is finally seeing it. I leaned back against him, safe in his embrace. It hadn't been easy. The adjustment to his world, the learning curve of existing in darkness. The press had been vicious when photos of us surfaced. The police had questioned me twice more before finally accepting I had nothing to give them, but I'd survived. More than that, I'd thrived. Detective Chen called again, I said quietly. His arms tightened fractionally. What did she want? To warn me. Said new evidence is coming. Said I should distance myself while I still can. I turned in his arms, meeting his eyes. I hung up on her. You don't have to protect me, Emma. If you want out, I don't. I cupped his face, feeling the familiar rasp of stubble. I'm exactly where I want to be. With you. Always. Something shifted in his expression. Relief mixed with love, mixed with that possessive need that never quite faded. Even knowing what's coming, the investigation, the trials, the possibility that we'll face it together, whatever comes. I smiled. You've given me everything, Dante. A home. My art back. Myself back. You think I'm going to abandon you the first time things get hard? Most people would. I'm not most people. You should know that by now. He kissed me. Deep. Claiming. Full of promise. When he pulled back, his eyes glittered with emotion. Marry me. I blinked. What? Marry me. Be my wife. Let me give you my name, my protection, everything I have. He smiled slightly. I know it's fast. I know we should probably wait. But I've never been patient, and I don't want to waste time pretending I'll ever want anyone else. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. Would you prefer I get on one knee, recite poetry? I'll do it, if that's what you want. I'll do anything. Yes. He stopped mid-sentence. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I want your name. Yes to all of it. I laughed at his stunned expression. Did you think I'd say no? I thought you'd want time to think about it. To consider the implications, I've been considering the implications since the night I got in your car. Since you looked at me like I mattered. Since you gave me space to find myself and then welcomed me home. I pressed my hand over his heart, feeling it thunder. I love you, Dante Valentino, with full knowledge of who you are, what you've done, and what being yours means. I love you anyway. He crushed me against him, his face buried in my hair, his body shaking slightly. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. I don't deserve you. Will never deserve you, but I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of this gift. Just love me. That's all I need. Always, he promised. Forever, no matter what comes. And standing in his garden, wrapped in his arms, I finally understood what the painting had meant. The cage with the open door, the light streaming through. Freedom wasn't about escaping. It was about choosing where you belonged. And I belonged here, with him, in the darkness and the light. Nico appeared at the garden door, clearing his throat. Boss? The Attorney General is on the phone. Says it's urgent. Dante's arms tightened around me for a moment before releasing. Tell him I'll call back. He says it can't wait. I stepped back, squeezing Dante's hand. Go, I'll be here. Promise? Always. He kissed my forehead, lingering for a moment, then headed inside. I watched him go, this powerful man who'd chosen me, who'd given me everything and asked only for my love in return. My phone buzzed. A text from Gabriella. Congratulations on the exhibition. And on the other thing, he asked me to find rings 2 months ago. Welcome to the family. I smiled, looking at the garden, at the house that had become home, at the life I'd built from nothing. Marco had been right about one thing. The girl I'd been. The one he'd thrown away. No one had wanted her, but the woman I'd become, the one who'd faced her fears and chosen love over safety, she was wanted, loved, cherished, and that made all the difference. Epilogue. 1 year later, I stood in front of a canvas in our bedroom. Dante insisted I have studios in every property, working on a new piece. This one was different from the others. Softer, hopeful. A man and a woman, their silhouettes intertwined, standing in a doorway, not trapped, not escaping. Just existing together, two halves of a complicated whole. Arms wrapped around me from behind, familiar and warm. Another masterpiece. It's not finished. It's perfect. Dante's hand splayed across my still flat stomach. Like everything you create, I covered his hand with mine, marveling at the life growing inside me. Unplanned, but not unwanted. A future I'd never imagined, built with a man I'd never expected to meet. Are you scared? I asked quietly. Terrified. What if I'm like my father? What if I pass on this darkness, this violence? You won't. I turned in his arms, looking up at the man I'd married 6 months ago in a private ceremony with only his most trusted people present. You know why? Because you're asking the question. Because you care enough to worry. That's what makes you different. His eyes searched mine, that midnight gaze that still made my heart race. I love you. I know. I smiled. And I love you. Our child will know love, safety, and freedom. Even if we have to fight for it. Always fighting, he murmured, but he was smiling. My fierce Emma. Outside, the sun set over the Hudson, painting our room in shades of gold and amber. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The investigation was ongoing. Territory disputes never ended, and raising a child in his world would be complicated. But tonight, wrapped in his arms, I was exactly where I belonged, free, loved, home.